He's a white man from Eufaula, Alabama, pastoring an all African-American congregation. Now that is unique, if ever there is any uniqueness anywhere in the world. There have been those who early on suggested that he was infiltrated by and put here by the FBI. Over the years, though, we found the commitment that Sam Mann had to this community. And his commitment changed the minds, the spirits of individuals who were doubtful about his presence in the African-American community. Now I can almost say with assurance that doubt is gone.
I was born in a little town called Eufaula, Alabama, in Barber County, which is 89 miles south and east of Montgomery. George Wallace was born and lived 18 miles away in Barber County in a little town called Clayton. I was the son of a mother who worked in the sock mill and of a father who was a clothing salesman. He was basically a salesman. We were what I would call on the edge of poverty.
When I think of Reverend Mann, I think of how he is obedient to the principles in the scriptures that tell us to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and be a voice to the poor. And he's always done that. He's been very true to that. He's a very authentic person. At this church, we've never been rich. We've never had a lot of money, but God has provided for us because Reverend Mann has encouraged us to take care of the community. When you take care of the community, God takes care of you.
Well, Reverend Mann has always been one of those who have advocated fairness, equality for people, particularly people of color and poor people. And so he's made a tremendous impact. If we can look at over the many years that he has served, from the housing project called Parker Square that was under his direction that housed hundreds of low-income people. He's also made a difference in making sure that people were able to eat. Electricity was paid, gas bills paid. He has made a tremendous impact on the lives of particularly poor people.
I think his best quality is his sense of joy and enthusiasm and positive belief in people and what can happen. It can be amazingly discouraging and negative, and he is still, at some point, pretty quickly, gonna come back to, what are we gonna do next? Here's the next step. And the other thing I would say is perseverance and a sense of determination. I've never in my life met anybody who is as determined when he decides what he's going to do. Even our getting back together, that was just his determination. If he decides on something, you're just not going to turn him back.
I remember when the gas prices, and I'm talking about natural gas prices, were going up for poor people. And we went to protest the Crown Center. And Nancy Kassebaum was a U.S. Senator at that time. And Reverend Mann, we went to this meeting and to disrupt the meeting so that we could let them know the plight of poor people can't pay their gas bill. And it was kind of funny to me that Reverend Mann would stand up and tell a U.S. sitting senator that, what about your gas bill? You can pay your gas bill, but other people can't pay theirs. And I was afraid for him, but after a while it became funny because I said, well, he's the only one could do such a thing as that. Reverend Sam Mann could challenge a sitting U.S. senator at that time, and that's back in the early 70s we would sure enough be going to jail.
I used to have a little motor scooter, and my friend Sonny Bill, who was black, had a motor scooter also. And Sonny Bill and I would hang out from time to time, and we would take our motor scooters to his daddy's shop, and his daddy would let us work on the motor scooters in his shop and everything. And one day we took them there, and we came out of there, and we were racing down Randolph Street, doing about 20 miles an hour. It wasn't no big deal. And the police stopped us. Well, the policeman who stopped us was the father of one of my best buddies on the football team, Cleveland Lott. And the policeman said to me, "Sammy, you go on home." And they took Sonny Bill into the police department and took his motor scooter away from him. And as I was going away, there were two young black women, teenagers, I think, or late teenagers, on the sidewalk there, and I could still hear them say, "They arrested that little nigger boy and let the white boy go free." And that has rung in my heart to this day.
I think that Reverend Sam Mann has resisted the dominant ethos, paradigms, and culture in which he came up within. He resisted the notion of white privilege and racism and black inferiority. He resisted the kinds of economic exploitation and privilege that's available to so many people with his level of education and his level of experience and background, race and gender. And I think that continues in his resisting a kind of pride and arrogancy that one can fall prey to when one has been involved with such accomplishment.
I had already had 3 run-ins with the white church. I was a preacher, graduated from Duke University, came to Kansas City, and I had been tried 3 times by 3 different church bodies, found to be a communist because of my participation in the whole civil rights movement, primarily around the issue called fair housing. I was out on Ward Parkway, but St. Mark's saved me. I was already in this thing, and I was without a church. There was nobody in the white Methodist church that would take me. My reputation was too strong, and I had been to jail and marched for Dr. King and so forth and so on. Had been fired from a church at 69th Ward Parkway from Peculiar, Missouri, and then from another little program. But the point I'm trying to make is that St. Mark's was like coming home.
When we got back together, when he kind of tracked me down and found me. And I had been married and divorced briefly, and I did not see myself getting married again. I just didn't. And one of the things, I realized I had been in love with him the whole time, but I still don't think I would have gotten married without seeing the man he was then, and a huge piece of it was the father that he was. He had 3 children. And when he and his wife divorced, I think she said to him, "You do a better job with the children than I do. Do you want them?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So he had primary custody of the children. I remember being very impressed with the fact that of all the people I knew who were divorced, this was the one man I knew who had primary custody of his children.
He's had a number of preachers that have come from this church who were members, and some of which nobody ever dreamed that they would be stand behind that sacred desk. As a matter of fact, one in particular who was, drug addict and really had a troubled life, and Reverend Mann gave him refuge in this church and helped him. And so I think that the ministers that he sort of helped cultivate are what he would consider his greatest achievement. And I think coupled with that would be the child care center and creating a space for children to learn and to have quality preparation for school system.
Now, people look at him as an activist. People look at him as one who demonstrates, one who speaks up for, but he doesn't get the recognition as being a great theologian. He has the ability to dissect the Word of God, and I believe that history will show one of these days that not only was Reverend Mann a great activist, but he was also a great preacher.
No matter what's happening or how tough things may be or have been in any given moment, and everybody goes through those times because of what's going on in your life personally and publicly, I'm always glad when I hear his car in the driveway. And I'm always glad when he comes in the door. And there is a sense, I mean, I have almost a physical, when you say Mel, a physical sense of, good, he's home. And that's always said a lot to me about how I feel about him and what he is to me.